Hi everyone and welcome to another book video. Today I thought I should do a list of 22 classical books I want to read in 2022. I'm going to try my best, but as a mood reader, I do not know what I will pick up next. It all depends on my mood. So if I don't read all these 22 classics this year, I'm not going to be upset with myself. But this is more a goal of something I want to do because I want to read more classics. And considering the amount of book I read every month and every year, I thought to do 1 or 2 books every month that's classic is possible for me. But when I made this list, I realized a lot of the classical books I do want to read are very heavy, both in theme and subject, but some are also very, very thick in size. So I'm going to do my best. These are like my top 22 books that I want to read. That's classical. So let's just get into it, shall we? Let me get up my book. Hi. The first one I really want to read is The Count of Monte Cristo. It's written by Alexander Dumas. I'm not going to talk a lot about every book. I'm just going to do a sentence of each book. Otherwise, this video might be very long. But the first book is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. The book is about an innocent man who gets sentenced to life in prison. He managed to escape and he finds riches in a treasure, and after that he plans his revenge on the people who put him into prison. Another book I really want to read is number 2, Robin Hood by Roger Lancelot Green. Robin Hood is a champion of the poor and the oppressed in the 12th century England against the cruel power of Prince John. Many might have seen the Disney, but it's also based off a book. The third book I really want to read is the Iliad by Homer. I also want to read the Odyssey, but I think this one is the one I want to read the most. If I get the chance, I will try to read both. The Iliad is an epic war retelling, basically. And it's also the oldest book on my list that I want to read. Number 4, we have a Charles Dickens book, The Great Expectations. It's about a humble orphan Pip who is an apprentice to a dirty worker of the forge, but he still have a dream to one day become a gentleman. And that's what he strives for and also maybe becomes. We also have the very famous Moby Dick by Herman Melville. Moby Dick is a story about the eerily compelling madman who's pursuing this unholy war against a creature as vast and dangerous as the unknowable sea itself. So it's basically about a mad guy who hunts a whale that he can never get. And I like mad men, so yes, I want to read it. Another one we have Lev Tolstoy, The War and Peace. Russian literature sure is my cup of tea, and I think this is going to be great. It is the Russian struggle with Napoleon, the war with Napoleon. Tolstoy saw a tragedy that involved all mankind, and that's what he's writing about in here. There's a lot about war and what happens to people in war, after war, before war, and so to speak. I think it's going to be right up my alley. I kind of like tragedy overall. We also have the book that inspired a musical. So on number 7 we have Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. I think that's how you say that. But it's basically about this girl Christine who learns how to sing by a mysterious voice at the opera, and he's called the Phantom of the Opera, and he gets madly in love with Christine. But then when her childhood friend comes to meet her, this phantom gets extremely jealous and wants Christine all for himself. Also kind of like a madman, I would say. We also have on 8th place The Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. Here we get to follow sisterhood, but also how it is to be a woman back in the day during the New England Civil War time. We have the talented tomboy who wants to be an author, a tragical frail Beth, a beautiful Meg, and a romantic spoiled Amy. And it's about their united devotion to each other and their struggles to survive in the world, both as a woman but also not as well off as some other people might be. There's three books in this series. I'm going to read the first one, and if I like how it's written, I will read the second two as well. I've seen the movies to this, but not read the books, so that's why I'm going to get the books done now. On number 9, we have Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne. And it's a 1600th century explorer who claims to have found a route to the Earth core, and they're going to explore it. I love adventures, and I love explorations in different kinds. But I never actually read Jules Verne's books, but I've heard many good things. So I actually have another Jules Verne's later on in my list, but this is the first. We have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This is actually the only book Emily Bronte did write before she died when she was 30 years old, but it's also very, very well known. And it's basically about a brooding Yorkshire tale of love that is stronger than death. What is very characteristically about this book is that all characters are unlikable. You're not supposed to like any one of them. You're supposed to dislike every one of them. But that also means that you will see no humans are perfect, no are good or bad. And that's why I'm looking forward to reading that one. We also have Charlotte Bronte's book, Jane Eyre. I thought that I wanted to read the Bronte sisters books, and these are the two I want to read right now. And Jane Eyre, I already actually have read once, but it's such a good gothic horror tale. It's not really horror, but it's a gothic tale, and gothic is probably one of my favorite genres, if I can say so. And this is one of the better gothic there is out there. And it's about a girl whose courage is tested when she arrives to Thornfield Hall, where she's been hired as by the brooding and proud Edward Rochester to take care of his ward Adele. And then some creepy and weird stuff happens in the house. On number 12, we have another book that's been made into a musical, and that's Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. It's a thrilling tale of narrow escape, romances in the midst of a revolution and a battlefield of heroism. It has everything, which makes sense considering how many pages this book is. But I really wanted to read it because I'm in love with the musical, and I love also the movie, and I love everything I know of the story, but I have never actually read the book. So I really want to pick the book up. On 13, we have another gothic story that I've really been wanting to read for a long time, and that's Uncle Silas by J. Sheridan Le Fanu. and it's one of the most significant and intriguing Gothic novels of the Victorian period. And I actually don't know much about it more than it's about an uncle called Silas. That's kind of weird. That's all I know of it, and I don't want to know more because I don't want to spoil myself. But I'm really looking forward to this book. On number 14, we have A Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. And this is like another Gothic story. And we can actually say this is a Gothic horror. The Woman in White is one of the first and most influential of the Victorian genre that combined Gothic horror and psychology realism. And I'm intrigued. I want to know more about this. I want to read it. But it's also a very, very thick book. But I'm going to pick it up. On number 15, we have The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. And I know there's a lot of books in this series, and I'm probably just going to read the first one because there are way too many. I think there's 5-6 books in the series, but I'm going to pick up the first one at least. And I mean, it's about honor and daring deeds, and it's set in France during the 1620s. And we have like romances or romantic heroes, unattainable heroines, kings and queens and criminals, and there's espionage, conspiracy, murder, vengeance, scandal. It has everything. So I want to read it. On number 16, we have Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Also a Gothic story. Also, I've read it, but I read it when I was in my teens, and I really want to reread it this year. And it's a story about a very fashionable young man who sells his soul for eternal youth. Sounds lovely, but we all know it's not going to be. The second Jules Verne's book I want to read is Here, and it's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And it's about an unidentified monster that threatens the international shippings, and the French oceanographer Pierre, I think, and his unflappable assistant organize an expedition by the US Navy to hunt down and destroy the menace and this unidentified monster. And it sounds like an adventure, and I'm in for that. On number 18, we have The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo, same guy who wrote Les Miserables, and this is set in medieval Paris under the and it's in the Twin Towers of the greatest structure of the supreme symbol ever, the Cathedral of Notre Dame. And there's a drama of Quasimodo, the Hunchback, Esmeralda, the Gypsy Dancer, and of course Claude Frollo, the priest tortured by the specter of his own damnation. Also made into a Disney movie, and I was so afraid of Frollo in the movies when I was a kid. I didn't know it was actually a book until I was a teen, but I never picked it up. But now I will. On number 20, another Russian literature that I'm going to read, and it's Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. It's about a desperate former student who wanders through the slums of St. Petersburg, and he commits a random murder, and he doesn't really feel any remorse or regret. And that's not really the story. What I've heard, there's a lot of talk to other characters, and you get to see their stories, and you can... It's a lot about like humans and if they're good or bad, and you realize you can't categorize people as just good and just bad. Everyone has their gray zones, which makes it interesting to read it. I do like Russian literature. I've heard they are pretty depressing, but I think I can manage it. Another one I want to read is a compilation of different Gothic tales, and it's a book just called Gothic Tales by Elizabeth Gaskell. Stories and collections in this. And one that I'm most interested in is one about the witch trials in Salem. Otherwise, I'm probably interested in everything, to be honest. I'm going to read all of it. But it's small Gothic stories in it. But the one I have my eye on is the one about the witch trials. And lastly, number 22. It's King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table by Thomas Mallory. And it's the magical tale of King Arthur and his knights at the Round Table. It has some adventure in it as well, but a lot about the king. I've heard it's a very slow book. So I'm looking forward to see what I think of it, because many of my friends who read it did not like it and did not even finish it. So we will see what I think. I usually like books like this, so I don't think it's going to be a problem. But then again, we never know. I realized I missed a book in here. Number 19 is The Adventure of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. It's a 19th century boy from Mississippi River town. Recounts his adventure and a travel down the river with a runaway slave. I've seen movies of this, and I've seen people talk about it, and I've seen analyzings about the book, but I never actually read the book myself. I think my mom read like a child version of this when I was a kid, but I never actually read the actual book of it before. But yes, that was what I missed, sorry. Continue. I never DNF books. I always finish every book that I start. Some books just take a little bit longer because I don't feel the mood to pick it up, and I might pick up another book instead. But most of the time I pick up all the books and I finish them. So if I start it, I'm going to finish it, that's for sure, but I'm not knowing if I'm going to enjoy it, I guess. But yeah, that was my list of the 22 classic books I want to read in 2022. I'm probably maybe going to read more classical books, and this is just like the top 22 that I really want to read. That's on my first pick to read. And if I actually finish all 22 this year, I'm going to pick another more classic books, but these are the ones that I want to read firstly. If you guys have any suggestions to a classical that you think I should read, just comment below and I will have a look at it. But as you guys know, I have a long list of books I want to get through, so I can't really promise I'm going to pick up the book right away because of my long list of books I already have. And especially if it's a classical books, because these are the ones I'm going to focus on right now. But I'm always open for suggestions, especially if it's a Gothic tale. I've read a lot already, but you know, you can always suggest, you know, keep suggesting. I love it. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I hope you guys will maybe take some good recommendations from this, and maybe you want to read some of the same books as I am going to read this year. Yeah, thank you, and have a lovely day. Bye!